And I've suffered a lot for it. And I think I was willing at my age now to be able to tell my story. I wanted to tell my life story from me, my truth.
People always saw Dolly Parton as the sweetest woman in country music, the one who smiled through everything, the one who never said a bad word about anybody. But behind the sparkle, behind that gentle voice, Hollywood hid another truth. Dolly didn't forget. She kept a list. 6 names. 6 people who left marks she never spoke about. Some were close friends. Some were towering legends. And one of them was the person she once called the great musical love of her life. Now, at 79, Dolly is finally opening the door she kept shut for decades. And what she reveals doesn't just shock you, it makes you question everything you thought you knew about her. This time, she's not holding back. Number 1, Elvis Presley, the king she had to walk away from. It remains one of the most stunning moments in music history. The day Dolly Parton told Elvis Presley no. In 1974, when Elvis said he wanted to record "I Will Always Love You," the tender goodbye Dolly wrote after parting ways with Porter Wagoner, she felt like her heart might burst from joy. Elvis singing her song? It felt unreal. But the dream shattered quickly. Colonel Tom Parker called with a catch. Elvis would record the song only if he received half of the publishing rights. Dolly didn't hesitate. "I'm sorry," she told him softly, "but I can't give up the publishing. This is the most important copyright I have." With that single sentence, she turned down the king of rock and roll and paid the emotional price. That night, she cried until the tears ran dry. She adored Elvis, respected his power, his presence, but she also knew the truth. Colonel Parker had stripped others of their greatest creations. Dolly refused to be another name on that list. The wound stayed with her. She always believed Elvis never forgave her, and their paths never crossed again. One phone call ended the chance of a lifetime, and left a scar she carried quietly for decades. But time has a way of revealing what courage really looks like. Nearly 20 years later, Whitney Houston's version of the song exploded across the world, becoming one of the best-selling singles in history and earning Dolly over $10 million. It secured her legacy forever. She once whispered, "I think Elvis would have been proud of me. Maybe he would have." But deep down, she knew the truth about Elvis that the world rarely acknowledged. His pride was as legendary as his voice. And though she always remembered him with love, there was something unspoken behind her smile. Even the brightest icons can leave shadows in the lives of other legends. Number 2, Whitney Houston, the voice so powerful it nearly eclipsed her. When The Bodyguard exploded into theaters in 1992, Whitney Houston didn't just cover "I Will Always Love You," she transformed it into a global force. More than 20 million copies sold, the soundtrack shattered records, and her soaring vocals became the definitive version for an entire generation. Yet millions of fans had no idea the song wasn't Whitney's creation at all. It was Dolly's. Interview after interview, praise poured onto Whitney as if she had written every line. Dolly, ever gracious, never corrected anyone. She sat there with that famous smile, glowing with pride, but behind that smile lived something more complex. She adored Whitney's brilliance, admired the power of her voice, yet felt the faintest sting of watching her own story fade into someone else's spotlight. "I cried when I first heard it," she said later. "Not because of the money, because it was so beautifully done." It became the quote everyone repeated. A graceful shield. A perfect answer. But people close to Dolly whispered a quieter truth. She struggled with feeling erased. The song that once symbolized her independence suddenly belonged to Whitney in the eyes of the world. Dolly could have sold the rights years before, but she didn't. She held on tightly. And when the royalties poured in, she invested them into a Nashville shopping center, joking, "That's the house that Whitney Houston built." Behind the humor, though, lived another reality. Whitney's version forever changed how people saw Dolly's masterpiece. Even today, countless younger fans still think Whitney wrote it. When Whitney passed away in 2012, Dolly spoke with a softness that cut straight to the heart. "I will always have a piece of her in that song." It wasn't bitterness. It was grief mixed with a quiet triumph, a reminder that even when another artist's voice becomes the loudest in the room, the words still belong to the woman who wrote them. Their friendship never cracked, but the tension remained, a shadow between two legends. Proof that admiration can be beautiful and painful when someone else's brilliance nearly outshines your own. Number 3. Porter Wagoner, the mentor who left the deepest scar. Long before Dolly Parton became a worldwide legend, there was one man who recognized her brilliance before anyone else: Porter Wagoner. In 1967, he brought a 21-year-old Dolly onto the Porter Wagoner Show, and overnight, the girl from the Smoky Mountains became a national name. On camera, they looked inseparable, two stars perfectly in sync, sharing hits, touring the country, and building a musical empire together. But behind the applause and glitter, their partnership was far more complicated. Porter demanded control over nearly every part of her career: her music, her finances, even the way she presented herself. Dolly, ambitious and hungry to grow, felt the walls closing in. "He was very controlling," she later confessed. "He didn't want me to leave, but I had to." In 1974, she finally told him she was breaking away to build her own path. What she hoped would be a bittersweet goodbye turned into something far heavier. Porter felt betrayed. And 5 years later, he retaliated with a lawsuit demanding $3 million, claiming she owed him profits from her future success. The pain cut deeper than the legal battle. "He helped me so much," Dolly whispered. "And then he sued me." Rather than fight publicly, she settled the matter quietly, choosing peace over spectacle. The real loss wasn't financial, it was emotional. Their relationship had been built on trust, mentorship, and shared dreams. Now it lay fractured. "I will always love you" was her parting gift to him, a soft, heartbreaking farewell. A love letter to the man who shaped her career. Number 4. Linda Ronstadt, the perfectionist who pushed her to her limit. When Dolly Parton, Linda Ronstadt, and Emmylou Harris announced their trio project in 1987, fans imagined pure magic: three angelic voices blending without effort, three legends creating harmony as naturally as breathing. But inside the studio, the reality was far more turbulent. Dolly thrived on instinct: 2 takes, full emotion, and on to the next song. Linda Ronstadt was the complete opposite: meticulous, intense, and relentlessly precise. She would redo a single line again and again, dissecting every note until it met her impossible standards. "She works slow," Dolly quipped years later. "So slow it drives me crazy." The humor made audiences laugh, but behind it lived real friction. Their voices fit together perfectly. Their working styles absolutely did not. The making of Trio became a tug-of-war: passion versus perfection, instinct versus calculation. The album went on to earn critical acclaim, but the process left bruises no critic ever saw. Later, Linda Ronstadt described Dolly as flaky and unreliable during the sessions. On red carpets, they stood shoulder to shoulder, smiling for photographers, but the warmth was gone. The space between them felt polite and painfully distant. Dolly summed it up gently, but sharply: "We loved each other's voices more than each other's ways of working. Elegant, diplomatic, and undeniably honest." Their collaborations changed country music forever. But behind the flawless harmonies lived a truth few ever sensed: admiration can spark brilliance, but it can just as easily ignite resentment. Number 5. Miley Cyrus, the goddaughter who pushed her to the edge. To Dolly Parton, Miley Cyrus has always been more than family. She's the child Dolly vowed to guide, protect, and steady long before the world knew her name. "Miley's like blood to me," Dolly once said. But blood doesn't always mean peace. And as Miley evolved from a Disney sweetheart into one of the most unpredictable figures in pop, Dolly found herself caught between unconditional love and quiet worry. When Miley shocked millions with her infamous 2013 VMA performance, the world turned its eyes straight to Dolly. Everyone wanted the same answer: what does her godmother think? In public, Dolly stood firm beside her. "She's just trying to find her way," she said gently to Time, shielding Miley from the storm. Behind closed doors, though, Dolly admitted she had delivered some hard truths: the kind only a godmother with decades of wisdom could offer. Their relationship was built on love, but stretched by the clash of values. Dolly treasured tradition, while Miley thrived on breaking every rule in sight. Then came 2023. When Miley released Used to Be Young, she revealed that Dolly had hesitated about the title. According to Miley, Dolly told her, "I don't know if I like that title, you're still young." Sweet on the surface, but unmistakably layered. Fans sensed the deeper message. Dolly feared Miley was burning out early, living too fast, too loudly, too fiercely. Still, nothing, not fame, not controversy, not generational tension, managed to sever their bond. Their emotional duet of Jolene, on New Year's Eve 2023, shimmered with sincerity. But look closely, and you could feel it. The bridge between two eras, two temperaments, two very different ideas of what it means to be a woman in the spotlight. A love that never breaks. A tension that never fully disappears. Number 6. Jeff Tweedy, the critic who tried to belittle her brilliance. Not every wound comes from someone close to the heart. Some arrive dressed as jokes, careless, smug, and sharper than they appear. In early 2023, Wilco frontman Jeff Tweedy offered one such barb. During an interview, he quipped, "She wrote Jolene and I Will Always Love You on the same day. She should have stopped after Jolene." It was meant as humor, he later claimed. But it ignited a firestorm. Fans blasted him for disrespecting a woman who had shaped American music, accusing him of arrogance and outright ignorance. What most people didn't understand was just how deeply that comment cut. Those two songs weren't merely classics. They were written on the same day Dolly walked away from Porter Wagoner, breaking free from his control with both heartbreak and courage tangled in her chest. Those lyrics were pieces of her soul, carved out at a moment of painful rebirth. So when Jeff Tweedy reduced her artistry to a punchline, he wasn't mocking a song, he was mocking a turning point in her life. He apologized, insisted he meant no harm. But the damage was already done. Country giants rushed to defend her, reminding the world that Dolly Parton has penned over 3,000 songs and helped define the sound of a nation. And Dolly? She said nothing. No interviews, no public scolding, no Twitter digs. Her silence was deliberate and devastating. She didn't need to clap back. Her legacy spoke louder than any insult. And when Wilco's next release fizzled quietly into the background, well, that said plenty. Dolly doesn't chase revenge. She lets history do the talking. But make no mistake, she heard every word. As she once said with that sweet, dangerous little smile, "I may look fake, but I'm real where it counts." Sweet as sugar, tough as steel, that is Dolly Parton. 6 names, 6 disappointments, and one woman who turned every slight, every betrayal, every bruise into music that outlived them all. Now tell me, which of these truths shook you the most? Was it the king who tried to take her rights, the mentor who dragged her to court, or the superstar whose voice overshadowed her own? Drop your thoughts below. And if you love uncovering the hidden stories behind country legends, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because the real stories are just getting started. Dolly Parton has long been cherished as the glowing heart of country music, a woman whose kindness feels boundless and whose smile seems carved from pure sunlight. But behind that shimmer is a truth the world rarely sees. Dolly's grace was shaped not by a life of ease, but by a lifetime of quiet battles. 6 names, 6 stories, 6 invisible bruises that forged the steel beneath her softness. Elvis Presley, Whitney Houston, Porter Wagoner, Linda Ronstadt, Miley Cyrus, and Jeff Tweedy. With Elvis, Dolly once believed she had reached the summit of musical destiny. The king himself wanted to record her song. But when Colonel Tom Parker demanded half the publishing rights to I Will Always Love You, that dream collapsed in an instant. Dolly wept all night, mourning the loss of a moment she had long imagined, but she did not bend. That refusal, painful as it was, protected her future. And decades later, Whitney Houston's version would explode into one of the most successful recordings in history. Yet Whitney's triumph brought its own sting. As the world celebrated the song, many forgot who wrote it. Dolly never corrected them, never reclaimed the spotlight. She simply smiled, a smile that covered both pride and the quiet ache of being overshadowed by a voice that shook the earth. And still, Dolly loved Whitney deeply, even after her passing, because sorrow never canceled affection. Her deepest wound, however, came from Porter Wagoner, the man who saw her brilliance before the world even knew her name. He opened doors for her, championed her, shaped her early career. But when she told him she needed to stand on her own, he felt betrayed. 5 years later, the betrayal turned into a $3 million lawsuit. For Dolly, it was less about the money and more about heartbreak. She had written, "I will always love you," as a tender goodbye, and he answered with anger. Yet in his final days, Dolly paid his hospital bills, visited him, and spoke lovingly at his funeral. Her forgiveness was a testament to who she was, a woman who could be wounded but refused to become bitter. Then came the clash of perfectionism and instinct with Linda Ronstadt. On paper, their trio project seemed destined to be magic. In the studio, it became a test of patience. Dolly recorded with emotion and spontaneity. Linda dissected every note, every breath. Their sessions dragged on, tension building behind polite smiles. When Linda later called Dolly unreliable, the word struck harder than any missed harmony. Trio became legendary, but the warmth between them cooled forever, a truth hidden from audiences who only heard the beauty of their blended voices. With Miley Cyrus, the pain was quieter, wrapped in love. As Miley's godmother, Dolly adored her, but love comes with fear. Watching Miley transform from Disney sweetheart to shock-heavy rebel forced Dolly into a space between worry and acceptance. She defended Miley publicly, scolded her gently in private, and held on to hope that the girl she helped raise would find her way. When Miley revealed Dolly's soft critique of "Used to be Young," fans understood the complexity. Dolly loved Miley fiercely, yet feared she might burn her youth too fast. Still, when they stood together on stage in 2023, their bond shone brighter than any conflict. And then there was Jeff Tweedy, the outsider whose careless joke cut deeper than he intended. His crack about Dolly quitting songwriting after Jolene struck at a sacred memory. The very day she wrote both Jolene and I Will Always Love You, the day she broke free from Porter's control and reclaimed her life. Tweedy's joke mocked not her talent, but her turning point. Dolly stayed silent, as she always did. And her silence was louder than any rebuttal. These 6 names, each carrying admiration, conflict, betrayal, or sorrow, shaped the Dolly the world knows today. People see the rhinestones, the big hair, the easy laughter. They rarely see the wounds underneath. But Dolly turned every hurt into harmony, every heartbreak into art, every scar into strength. She didn't complain. She didn't retaliate. She rose, again and again, from the shadows cast by others. This is the real Dolly Parton, gentle yet unbreakable, sweet yet razor-sharp, soft yet impossibly strong.